Let's get right into it. 4 ways how you can get a second citizenship, a second passport, or a third passport if you already have 2, for free. I'm the Wealthy Expat. I helped over 1,000 people all over the world get second citizenship, second residency, buy real estate abroad, and I want everyone in the world by 2030 to have a second passport, specifically if you are a millionaire. The first way that I recommend anybody do to get a second citizenship, essentially for free, maybe a couple $1,000s, would be citizenship by descent. You can do this through multiple ways. If you know where your family comes from, there are people, for example, in the United States who know that their great-great-grandfather came from Luxembourg in a certain time period, and every single family member after that has been living in the exact same place in the United States. So it would be very easy to trace locally in the US those records from the person that immigrated from Luxembourg, and then go to Luxembourg and then find the records and then get a Luxembourgish passport. That would be a very straightforward option. A lot of people have done that with Italy, with Poland, with many different countries, specifically in Europe. Other people have also done this through Ancestry.com. This is not a sponsored video, and I don't sponsor any of these tools. I'm just telling you what I did. For example, I use Ancestry, and I can check that I come mainly from the European continent, specifically the Iberian Peninsula. I am more than 50% Spanish DNA. Makes a lot of sense because most Latinos are 40%, 50% Spanish, and my great-great-grandfather moved from Spain over to Latin America. Then my family kind of spread out all over Latin America, and that is why, obviously, I ended up in Puerto Rico, where my grandparents eventually landed. And I, if possible, could get a Spanish passport, but it is just too many generations ago. There are other countries that allow you to do this no matter how many generations. For example, some countries like Germany, I have a friend from the US, he renounced his US citizenship, ended up getting a German passport, and he got it by proving that his great-great-great-grandfather moved from Germany to the United States. He was able to find the records of that. It took him many years, but he got a solid citizenship in the European Union. He can go back to the US if he wants to visit family and so on after renouncing, and he got it for free. Even if it takes you 5 years of waiting for the office to approve your citizenship, you're getting a solid passport without having to live there, without having to get a residency permit, without having to pay taxes in that country. Other people, for example, their great-grandfather moved from Poland before World War II to Brazil. There's a lot of Brazilians, a lot of Argentinians that originally come from Poland. They even have a Polish last name, and their grandfather doesn't have a Polish passport. Their parents don't have a Polish passport, but they, if they connect that through Ancestry, could get a Polish passport. They could get an Italian passport. They could get an Irish. A lot of British citizens, once the UK left the European Union, they got an Irish passport through Ancestry. I think anybody should do this. Maybe you're Australian and your great-grandfather was born in New Zealand, or was born in Uruguay, or was born in any country where you could potentially get a solid second passport just to have it as a plan B for better travel freedom around the world. Maybe you want to get a passport that is non-aligned to any other country. Maybe you've been living in the United States your whole life, but your parents, for example, are from Barbados, and you can get a Barbados passport. And if anything happens in the US, you can have your Barbados passport for free. Again, some people, for example, come from the Caribbean, and their parents come from Grenada or St. Kitts. They could get a passport that would cost them $250,000 for free as well. So checking Ancestry.com or any of these genealogical records to see where your great-grandparents come from, or your parents come from in some cases. Maybe your parents were born in a certain country. They never even cared about that country. They became Canadian, but now you can have a Canadian passport plus the country where your parents are from, and you can be diversified just by having family from there. The next one is citizenship by birth. Now, I do want to caution you because there are countries that are tightening the rules. For example, Argentina is tightening the rules. If you have a child in Argentina, it is no longer super easy for you to get citizenship in Argentina. Your child, in some cases, it might be challenged, but your child will get an Argentinian passport unless you are, for example, Russian, and you're both on a tourist visa, and the child is born, and maybe they challenge it, and you have to go to court and fight for the child's passport. Mexico also, I've heard it takes a lot longer to get citizenship for the child, but that's the law. Jus soli. If you are born in that country, you get the citizenship of that country. So a lot of people are going to Costa Rica, they're going to Mexico, they're going to Argentina, they're going to Chile in some cases through a humanitarian route in order to give their child a second citizenship and potentially permanent residency for the father and mother, and also potentially citizenship. So you could, for example, be Canadian, go to Mexico, give birth in Mexico, and in 2 years, you would have your Mexican passport, your child would have their Mexican passport immediately, and you will have a perfect plan B. And the level of healthcare is also very high, and also it might be even cheaper to give birth there, and also it might be a better experience because your wife, for example, is giving birth next to a beach, and then she can relax and have better weather, and overall, it can be a great way for you to secure a perfect plan B for your whole family with something that you're going to do anyway. Some people prefer to do it for their second birth, so they have the first birth in their country of origin, and then for the second child, they go to the other country, and for the third child, they can go to another country, and they end up with like 7 different passports after having 3 or 4 children. The next one is citizenship by marriage. Obviously, be very careful because you're not going to marry someone and give them half of your net worth in order to get a second passport. But there's some countries that allow you to get citizenship much faster by getting married. Most countries will give you permanent residency or long-term residency by getting married. Even countries that it's extremely hard to get residency, you get married to a citizen and boom, 5-year permit, 10-year permit, permanent residency, 3-year permit renewable, citizenship in a lot of cases very quickly. So for example, Mexico, 2 years to citizenship, Spain, 1 year to citizenship, Portugal also much shorter. A lot of Latin American countries will be much shorter. So if you want to get a citizenship and you're married anyway, might as well go there for 1 year or 2 years, or in some cases, you only have to go there a couple of times per year. You don't have to live in that country, and the person you're married to is from that country. So obviously there's going to be a cultural and family connection as well to that country. It's a no-brainer for pretty much anybody, unless you're married to someone from a heavily sanctioned country where it's just going to make your life harder by getting that citizenship, and it's better just focusing on getting other passports in other ways. And the last way would be by naturalization. After legal residency, there are countries that allow you to get citizenship very quickly. In a lot of cases, for example, if you're from Latin America, you can get other Latin American passports relatively quickly, depending on the agreements that different countries have. So for an American, it would take 5 years, but for you, because you're a native Spanish speaker and you already have a Latin American passport, it will be 1 year or 2 years. Same is the case for some European countries. If you're a Latino, you can go to Spain and get citizenship in 2 years, or you're Filipino. It's really a no-brainer for any Filipino, to be honest. Even millionaire Filipinos, 2 years of Spanish taxes, you improve your travel freedom massively by getting a Spanish passport. Yes, Spain has a lot of problems. You also have exit taxes, but if you can live 2 years and then another 6 to 12 months for the passport and then get out of Spain, that's a great deal for me, in my opinion, if I want to go from a Filipino passport over to an EU travel freedom passport. Argentina is also available for anybody. If you want to get an amazing second passport in an amazing country quickly in 2 years, you can have long periods outside of Argentina. It is not that easy anymore. Same thing with Paraguay. It is not that easy. Yes, 3 years after permanent residency, but they're going to expect you to have ties to the country, not just to get permanent residency, leave for 3 years, come back in 3 years and ask for your passport. You need to have ties to the country. You need to have investments in the country. You need to spend a significant amount of time in the country. But these are countries that allow you to naturalize extremely quickly. And the last one I will mention here, although probably they're not watching this channel, but let's say you have a Nobel Prize, you're a top-tier surgeon that is going to move to another country, like Malta, for example, has this new program, Citizenship by Exception. I don't really recommend it because the next administration can just revoke your citizenship if they think you're not contributing enough. But you could, for some time, technically, get multi-citizenship by contribution. If you're a surgeon from the UK, you move to Malta to do some surgeries that they need in Malta, they could give you multi-citizenship, but they could also get rid of it, so be careful with that one. But there's a lot of countries that if you provide some sort of contribution, it doesn't have to be monetarily. It can be you're a surgeon, Nobel Prize winner, chemist, and you're bringing some sort of new technology to the country. You're an engineer, you're a road engineer, and that country wants to build better roads, and you can help them do that. Anything where you can provide a significant contribution in your knowledge, experience, expertise. Some countries will give you citizenship by merit extremely quickly, and it will be essentially for free. Maybe they charge you a 5K fee, maybe 10K due diligence fee, and that's it. You're getting a top-tier passport just because of what you can bring to that country. If you're interested in second citizenship, definitely check out this video right here on the 10 countries that my wealthiest clients are choosing for second citizenship, for more freedom, for better protection for their future, their family, and their finances. Check them out right here.